Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're tuning in from, and welcome to a very special edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. I'm your host, Chris Greene, the Director of Network Growth for Avoya Travel. I say a very special edition because as we record this live today on March 11th, 2021, it really is, for at least most people in the United States, the one-year anniversary since the COVID-19 pandemic really started. It was a year ago today that then President Trump address the nation. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here in just a few minutes in our Eye on the Industry feature. We're also going to introduce you today to another fantastic member of the Avoya team. Chris Carrasco will be joining us, Vice President in charge of Contact Center Operations. Another chance for you to meet a member of the team, certainly my favorite segment here on Deck. But before we get started with this week's episode, I just want to talk for a second about the mission and purpose, the reason why we do On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. And it really is just another chance for my team from Network Expansion to connect with the travel professionals out there, experienced travel professionals, both those in our network already and those maybe thinking of joining our network. And our chance to highlight some of the amazing best-in-class resources that are offered exclusively to the members of the Avoya Travel Network, to spotlight some of the amazing people and the faces that make those resources happen. We're very proud of the fact that Avoya Travel has the #1 ratio when it comes to support personnel to affiliates in the travel industry. So we're really excited, and we hope that you hear something that kind of piques your interest, wants you to find out more, reach out, have some questions, and that's where my team comes in, a very dedicated and talented team of network expansion specialists ready to answer any questions. And if you want to move forward with affiliation, they're there to help you take those first and initial steps. So let's go ahead and get started with this week's edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update, and our Eye on the Industry feature. And like I said in my opening today, March 11th, 2021, for most Americans is the one-year anniversary of the COVID-19 pandemic starting here in the United States. And I say for most because any of us that have been in the leisure travel industry, well, we were certainly already a month knee deep in this mess, right? Because of the Diamond Princess and the fallout from the shutdowns in Italy. But for most Americans, it was March 11th that the dominoes really started to tumble fast. Dr. Fauci testified in front of Congress that day that he thought the pandemic was about to get a lot worse. The stock market was crashing. And then that night, President Trump addressed the nation on the COVID crisis and announced what many thought was just unthinkable, right? A 30-day ban on international travel from Europe. And then boom, it all started to happen. Within days, companies went fully remote. We were there just a couple of days after this. States began to shut down. On March 14th, the CLIA announced their voluntary suspension of service for the whole cruise industry. And the rest is history, as they say. So let's fast forward a year. And where do we stand? Well, if you're a glass is half full kind of a person, you have a lot of reasons to be really optimistic right now because sales have been really strong. We're seeing that here at Avoya Travel. We're hearing that from the members of the Avoya Travel Network. Most major vendors are reporting the same thing, very strong sales when you take it in comparison to the rest of the COVID crisis. The traveling public certainly seems like they can't wait to travel again. And the places that are opening, that they're seeing pretty brisk business. Now, if you're a glass is half empty type person, certainly a lot in that camp too, right? We still don't have a clear understanding of when cruises are going to begin again in North America. Just this week, Princess and Holland America extended their pause in operations, and now that extends all the way into July in some cases. We don't have any clear guidelines from the CDC yet as far as implementing their conditional sail orders so we can get those test sailings started and then get the industry back open. The majority of the world is still closed to international travel and specifically the American traveler. But personally, I prefer what you see some really exciting times just here on the horizon. And the new stimulus package that is about to be signed by President Biden certainly is a positive step. But as our friends from the CEO and President Zane Kirby, while the American Rescue Plan Act provides some support, it's clear that more is needed for our industry. He went on to say, we have been catastrophically impacted by COVID-19 and face a longer recovery window than virtually any other industry. Just today, there was a press release from ASA, them and another coalition made up of people including IATAN and some of the airlines and the pilots associations, pushing the White House for just clearer guidelines, something on more of a national level, especially when it comes to like the COVID vaccine passports that you've heard talked about. Because right now it's kind of piecemeal and it looks like it could be a little bit of a mess. But no doubt ASTA continues to fight for the travel agency industry and making sure those voices are heard. We're going to be featuring ASTA and their legislative day, which is scheduled for mid-May. We're going to be doing that on a future episode here on Deck with Avoya, because Avoya Travel is very involved in that initiative, and we look forward to being able to tell you more. In some positive news, not everyone is staying home. It's spring break time, and the folks at Allianz have crunched some numbers for spring break 2021. 1.8 million itineraries to be exact. And they checked on trips that were running between 5 and 8 days. That's kind of your standard length, right, for a spring break trip. And what they found is Orlando, Florida, #1 yet again. All great stories, it seems, start in Florida. And the majority of the bad ones start in Florida, too, it seems like, right? Florida man is Florida man for a reason. #2 on the list was Phoenix. #3 was Miami, which took a big jump up from 2020, which had found them at #8. When it comes to international travel, no surprise here. Mexico continues to dominate that, taking home the top 3 spots, with Cancun being #1, Cabo San Lucas being #2, and Puerto Vallarta coming in at #3. But interesting to see that falling out of the top 10 this year were London, England, and the Grand Cayman Islands. And the reason is they're not open for international travel, so pretty hard to rank up there in the rankings if you're not welcoming anybody across your border. And finally, we wrap up our Eye on the Industry segment with just great news. I think fantastic news from our friends at Oceania Cruise Lines. They reported the best sales day ever in their 18-year company history just last week. It was when they released their 2022-23 Tropics and Exotics collection. This is 127 different itineraries spread out over 6 continents, with the top seller being a 35-day Australian circumnavigation trip over the Christmas and New Year celebration. It just sounds heavenly. Sign me up, please. Where do I send my money? And hand in hand with that, members of the Avoya Travel Network have also seen record sales with Oceania over this month as well, as Oceania Cruise Lines is one of our highly preferred vendors, and we have just an amazing relationship. So congratulations to all the travel agents and to Oceania and their team for those tremendous bookings. As we segue into our next segment here on Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update, it's once again time to meet another amazing team member from Avoya Travel. And again, I remind you that Avoya Travel has the highest ratio of support personnel to affiliates in the industry, and they're just part of the reason why Avoya Travel has been voted #1 by the industry, I might add, year after year after year. Just an amazing accomplishment. This week, we're happy to introduce you to Chris Carrasco. Chris is the Vice President in charge of Contact Center Operations. And if you've ever wondered how a call becomes a lead and then a lead turns into a sale, well, Chris is the right guy to ask some of those questions. And Chris, we welcome you to On Deck with Avoya, and we thank you for being our featured guest this week.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate being here.
Chris, before we discuss the great ways that our contact center helps the members of the Avoya Travel Network stay strong and poised for success, let's talk a little bit about you and your history in the travel industry. What in the world made you want to be part of this crazy industry that we call the travel business? You've been in it for over a decade, right?
Yeah, well, when you say over a decade, I mean, it makes it sound like a really, really long time. But yeah, I'll be up here in 13 years coming in July. But you know, I really just wanted a change in atmosphere, to be honest with you. My background prior to Avoya was in service, manufacturing, and technical support for you know, motorhomes, travel trailers, manufactured homes, swimming pools, wireless chemical automation. And I actually did 4 years of sales at Nordstrom as well. But you know, that industry, although it's a great industry, but it's such a different industry from the travel industry, to where, you know, when that phone rings, somebody is looking for some help because something's broken, right? Something that they paid a lot of money for is broken, and they're expecting you to fix it. You come down to the travel side of the business. I mean, when that phone rings, someone's happy, someone's ready to make memories, somebody's ready, you know, good for all of us, ready to spend money.
Right.
So it's certainly a different industry. It's very, very positive. I enjoy it. I enjoy the company. I enjoy the people I work with every day.
Was travel something that was important to you and your family as you were growing up? Did you have a chance to lock in some great travel experiences as a young man?
You know, when I was growing up, we really didn't travel at all, to be honest with you. I really can't say that our travels were, going to our sporting events or, going to see family, whether it's in the state or out of state. But, my first time on a ship, I believe, was in 2009. And I have been to the Avoya conferences, but, to this day, almost 13 years into the travel industry, I still have yet to take a trip with my wife or my family, but that'll come up soon.
Yeah, hopefully, right? There's a beautiful world, and I know your kids are growing, so it'll be a great chance to get out there and explore. Chris, explain to me what roles, because I know it's more than one, that our contact center plays in the overall picture of Avoya Travel. And as the VP in charge of contact center operations, how does your role come into play with all of that?
There are a lot of roles. They wear a lot of different hats. But I would say that their main role is they really need to captivate the customer as the first point of contact, not necessarily the first point of contact because they get emails, but the first point of voice contact. They really need to captivate the customer to convince them and encourage them to work with us. That's really where it all starts, because the majority of leads that we receive flow through our interaction, and it's important that they're on their game daily.
Yeah, I mean, that first impression, you just can't make a first impression a second time. So really vital that they have that little pep in their voice and things like that when they're interacting with the customer. And your team, they connect the people that are looking to make those travel dreams a reality with the people that want to assist in making that a reality. So in essence, your team really is the glue that kind of holds the whole shared success, business model together. And you must have a lot of pride because of that.
Oh, absolutely. All sides of the shared success model are very, very important. But the contact center reps take their roles very, very seriously. They take pride in doing what they do, and they're really happy to be part of the shared success model, to where when the contact center wins, that's the kind of lead into the independent affiliates and the network winning. So it's a fantastic business model. It's very, very unique, and we're all super happy to be part of it.
So I was talking about in my Eye on the Industry feature about here we are at the 1 year mark, and it's hard to believe that a whole year has went by during this COVID crisis. And everybody in our company and everybody in the travel industry has had to pivot in one way or another in order to meet new demands. What are some of the ways that you and your team had to pivot in order to meet the demands and the realities of the COVID crisis?
I think that the biggest challenge we had, was going remote. We were very used to seeing each other every single day, working alongside each other. If we had questions, we'd be able to ask each other. But we kept the best of the best. And really, when you think about the level of talent of the contact center reps that are working in the contact center today, all they basically did was switch a desk and switch a location. They've always been self-operating, focused and motivated. So even though they're working from home, working remotely, not working in the office, really nothing has changed, and we didn't lose any quality either.
I mean, and it's really nice and humble of you to say it in such terms, but I know it was a bigger challenge to make happen than you're letting on. So kudos to you and your team for making that so seamless. As I was also talking about in my earlier part of the program, we're starting to see a little bit of a boost in sales, right? It's been fairly strong since the beginning of the year compared to the rest of the COVID crisis. With a man that I'm sure has to have his finger on the pulse of that whole thing, are you and your team starting to see that surge as well? And are you starting to get excited about the better days that are hopefully here on the horizon?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're seeing the uptick every single day, every week, and every month. One exciting metric that I can share is that incoming calls have been steadily increasing. February was 15% up over January. March, 70% up over February. And then March is 96% up over January. Our workflow is up 54%. So we're very, very excited to get back in the trenches and be busy for, the reps are excited to be busy for the entire 8-hour shift nonstop. We're very excited.
Well, I mean, on behalf of all of our affiliates that are probably joining us today, they certainly appreciate all the hard work and due diligence that you and your team do on that. We're chatting with Chris Carrasco, Vice President in charge of Contact Center Operations, our featured guest this week on our Meet the Team feature here on Deck with Avoya. Chris, let's talk for a minute about you personally, away from Avoya Travel. And, you know, in our chance to hang out, whether it's been there in San Diego or the few trips that we've been on mutually, all of our conversations at one point or another always seem to circle back to the concept of family. You're either telling me a story of some fun adventure that you and the family have been on, or you're bragging about some amazing thing that one of your kids has taken part in. You just love being a family man, don't you? I mean, it shows you have a lot of pride about that.
Absolutely. And you know, I think it kind of goes back to myself growing up. I'm the youngest of 7 kids. My dad worked at the post office for over 50 years. That's all I knew how to do was work and provide for his family. But he also coached us as well. Coming up playing baseball and soccer. My sister's playing softball. My mom worked occasionally, but she really didn't work outside the home. They always supported us in everything we did, you know, the good and the bad. And they were always there for our school activities and sports activities. I think the first sporting event that my parents missed was actually when I was in college. They missed one of my soccer games. But even though we didn't travel, I really remember their involvement to this day. And I think it's really important to do that for my girls as well. Now, speaking of your home life, I saw on the slide that you basically are running a small scale farm there in northern San Diego County. I mean, how did that happen there, Farmer Carrasco? You know, I think it kind of happened, you know, all with the one idea from my youngest daughter and a request, and then a lot of puppy dog eyes and batting the eyelashes and seeing these big blue eyes looking at me and asking for a pig. You know, we had dogs before that and a bunny, but, you know, the biggest challenge that we have is we have 2 pigs. They're not very big pigs. They're not pot-belly pigs. They're medium-sized pigs. They lived inside for a while, but it's fun. We have 5 chickens. I have probably 85 eggs in my fridge right now that, you know, if anybody needs eggs, you know, let me know. I can drop them off. But it's fun. For me, it's fun. Like I told you before, you know, when we first got into this farm thing, the kids were very, very helpful. But as they become teenagers, they've kind of fallen off the helping part. But for me, it's, you know, it's a nice hobby, and it's fun and it's relaxing to take care of these animals.
So give us the inventory really quick. What is there at the Carrasco household?
We have 2 Fox Red Labs, and Fox Red Labs are Labrador Retrievers, but they're red. We have 2 pigs, 1 bunny, 1 cat, 5 chickens that give us 5 eggs a day, 5 hens, and a couple fish.
Well, that certainly sounds like you've got your hands full. Yeah. I know that from looking at your slide that you were a pretty accomplished soccer player and have been most of your life. In fact, you had a chance to represent your country in a pretty big international competition at a pretty early age. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, you know, it was with a company called International Sports Group, and I remember it being a weekend-long tryout. You had to write a 3-page essay, and I was, lucky enough and fortunate enough to be chosen. Very big honor to represent Southern California in the United States. But that was actually the first time I'd ever been on an airplane. And it was an international flight. It was fun. And the cool thing about this whole thing, Chris, is that my parents went. So my parents actually went, and they spent 30 days in Europe with me. And at first I was kind of, being a teenager, you know what, I want my parents to go, all these kids are going out by themselves. But, one weekend when I ran out of money, it was amazing having them there.
I bet. And it's a trip like that and an experience like that at such an impressionable age. Did that really help kind of shape your worldview now that you're an adult?
Yeah, I would say a little bit. Back then it was always, soccer 24/7. Really didn't think about much as a teenager growing up other than sports, baseball and soccer. But, I think back to making that trip and how friendly the people were. And I even remember staying with host families. And I actually don't even know back then if there was even all this background checks, for a host family to host somebody internationally. But the people were there was just so amazing. The country was beautiful. The level of soccer was just intense, so it was a great experience that, I would encourage anybody, if they ever got the opportunity to do if they can do it.
I think back then the qualifications were, are you willing to feed a 16-year-old boy for whatever length of time? If they said yes, you're like, sign them up.
I think my answer right now, if somebody asked me that question, would be no.
I know you said you haven't had a chance to do a lot of big trips with the family, but anything, I mean, like with this crisis and all of us being locked down for the last year, anything that's kind of bubbling up that you're like, all right, as soon as we're turned loose, I just got to make this happen?
No, not necessarily. As I told you, my, growing up, we didn't really travel. Nowadays, we don't really travel. My travel revolves around, camping in the desert, riding quads, going to the beach camping. But, looking ahead into the future, my daughters have a couple of volleyball tournaments out of state. My oldest daughter's a freshman at NAU, and she'll be coming back in a couple months here. So they're pretty amazing student athletes. So we support them any chance that we get.
Those are great adventures too. And that Flagstaff area is fantastic.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So, easy entry into the Grand Canyon, right?
Yep.
Well, Chris, we really appreciate your time today. But before we let you go, is there like one piece of advice if you were having a one-on-one conversation like this with a travel professional and they're trying to figure out how they're going to navigate the end of this crisis and then try to start to thrive pushing through it? What would that advice be?
Yeah, Chris, I think the one piece of advice is, I know everybody's been patient, but stay patient, because what we've seen over the last 4 to 6 weeks is that business is coming, business is on the horizon, and being up 96% in incoming calls from January to March, it's going to come, and it's going to be here sooner than we know it.
Yeah, that's just fantastic advice and just great information that you shared. Chris, thank you so much for being our special guest today.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Chris Carrasco, everybody, Vice President in charge of Contact Center Operations. And next week on our Meet the Team feature, the Supreme Commander, Viola Di Velasco, Vice President of Sales Operations at Avoya Travel. Viola just tells it like it is. And I just can't wait for that conversation. Going to be absolutely fantastic. So we've got some really exciting promotion news we want to share with you, right? We've been sharing this for the last couple of weeks, but we just want to remind you that still active at least through the month of March, but don't wait on it. As you heard, sales are really starting to increase. And as sales increase, of course, the powers that be are going to be really looking at everything that's on the table. But right now, if you're a high-end experienced travel professional, and by high-end, I mean like in 2019, you probably did $500,000 or more in gross sales. You have a handful of future cruise credits or future tour credits maybe that your clients are holding on to. You made some bookings. You're starting to see that increase in flow yourself, but you just need a better place to call home for you and your business. For people like that, we're waiving that $495 affiliation fee for our initial 6-month agreement. My team is more than happy to get you qualified. For anybody else that's still trying to attain that level, well, hopefully our best-in-class resources can help you hit your goals, and we've got a promotion for you too. Join the network, normal cost at the end of the 6 months. If everybody wants to move forward, we're waiving that first renewal fee. So either way, you have a chance to save if you're qualified to join the Avoya Travel Network. And a reminder for our great independent affiliates, the current members of the Avoya Travel Network. Boy, send us those referrals. We know you're in contact, hopefully with some great travel agents too. Let them know how amazing Avoya is. Let us know. We're happy to do the legwork. And of course, you get that referral bonus if they join the network. You can explore with complete flexibility. There's no long-term contract or exclusive agreement. Again, my team would be more than happy to have that conversation, go over in detail our top-level resources, best-in-class suite resources. And then we're going to schedule you for a demonstration, a one-on-one, hopefully, of our technology. So you get a sneak peek at all the reasons that Avoya Travel ends up as the #1 host agency in the country. And if you're looking to get a hold of us, my contact information is pretty easy. There's lots of ways to reach out. You can always send an email, and my email is chris.greene@avoyatravel.com. You can also always log on to our website, avoyanetwork.com, and put in your request that way. Give us a call. If you're an affiliate of our network now, just send me an email with their information. I'll have my team connect that way. Again, lots of ways. You can even send us a message right here on either any of our social media channels that you're watching this on. If you happen to be watching us on YouTube, make sure you reach down there and hit that subscribe button, right? So you get all of our fantastic updates. And again, thank you so much for your time today. Better days are ahead, a lot of exciting news. So thank you so much to Chris Carrasco, my special Meet the Team featured guest today. I look forward to having Viola on next week. Thank you to Marissa Smith, who does a wonderful job in producing our segment in the background. And I hope everybody has a fantastic week. Thanks again, everyone.